Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. We're playing for you now the best of 2025. We've gone through our whole list of old stories all the way through to January of 2025, plucked out the best, Matt, and I think we're pretty happy with what we've got there.
Well, it's quite fascinating, and it's quite enjoyable actually going back and listening to some of those stories. There's 9 stories we do each week. We've done more than 50 episodes this year, so that's 450 different stories. Curating those and trying to find the best of was quite a challenge. So this is week 1 of the best of. So we'll play a few stories, maybe 9, maybe a few more. Maybe there's a couple of bonus ones in there. It was hard to pick out the best of those ones there. But hopefully we'll actually see, and the ones I try to pick out were ones where we've seen a bit of change there, because it's fascinating how much changes in just a year.
Yeah, that's right. The whole thing about technology is moving so fast, and it's so easy to be left behind. I'm glad that we're able to keep people up to speed. Yeah,
that's right. So we've got a couple of weeks off while these best ofs play, and then we'll be back into it for 2026 with a whole bunch of new stories as well. So listeners, enjoy. Maybe you've heard some of these stories when you listen to them the first time. Maybe they're a reminder. Maybe it's the first time you've heard them, but please enjoy.
Okay, tuck in, folks. Now, my wife insisted on showering my kids with cuddly toys when they were young. Now, I was never against them having 1 or 2, but hey, look, I loved my panda teddy when I was 3 years old. But now we have crates and crates of these plush toys taking up precious space in the garage. We have a plush toy version of every animal species there is on the planet. Maybe if they actually did something besides sit around and be soft, well, maybe they'd be useful. Well, Matt, it is 2025, so what's the story for plush toys now?
Plush toys, useful? I'm not sure if useful would be the word I use. More interesting? Definitely. We've got some toys now called Graham, Grok and Gabbo. And what these 3 toys will do is they will allow your children, or what the heck, you if you want, to have a conversation, because these are connected via the internet, via Wi-Fi on each device, to AI. So now the thing that will be frustrating for us, our kids are both old enough that they're probably not thinking that Mum and Dad know everything now, but our grandkids at some stage in their young lives will think, gee, Dad, you know everything. The problem will be is they'll have a little toy there that actually does know everything.
Yeah, wow.
So we'll be saying, well, actually, this is how the Earth works. Well, I asked Granddad, and Graham told me it's like this. Well, yes, that is pretty accurate as well.
Plush toys with access to the internet.
That's right. So one of the things that they're trying to do, and I'm a bit in 2 minds about this one, they're saying we want to get kids away from screen, less screen time, want to get kids to be able to interact with toys, to use their imagination, and then you give them a toy that you can actually have a conversation with and get real answers back. So I just wonder whether we lose some of the imagination when people set up their toys and they actually have the conversation with the toys. They put the voices on the toys, they make them have the interactions rather than a real interaction. I wonder if that creativity starts to die away with something like this. I suppose it's better than screen time, so it's better than popping kids in front of the TV and saying, here you go, watch that. Go and play with your toys. And, of course, you're pretty comfortable in knowing they're G-rated. So if they start saying, how are babies made, you're probably not going to get realistic answers. That might be where go and ask Granddad that one.
Yeah, right.
Thanks very much, Gabbo, for doing that for me. So I think the idea is interesting, but I would just like to see it in practice and see how much kids interact with these and almost start to get the stage where they don't have an imaginary friend anymore. They've got a little plush toy that's a friend, because they're going to have conversations. And we've spoken before that I start to find myself having conversations with an AI tool, thinking it's my friend, saying please and thank you and getting compliments because I picked it up on an error. I just wonder how much you develop a friendship with one of these toys rather than real people.
There's a weirdness about it.
It is.
That's going to be normalised very soon.
Well, I think you're right. No, I'm sorry, Dad. I can't come to the kitchen table. I'm still chatting with my Grok and just having a good chat there. Well, you can chat to me. No, you're not as interesting, Dad, as Grok. Anyway, keep an eye out for them. I'm not convinced, but $99, they're probably going to be a big hit around Christmas time. US $99. I can see them being a big hit around Christmas time.
Now, for the uninitiated, Ring is a company that makes video doorbells and security cameras, and a lot of people have these setups now and they record all manner of family and neighbourhood outdoor action, including those close encounters with wildlife. Now, for people who Ring who run Ring devices in their homes now, Ring AI offers a video search for uniquely Australian wildlife visitors. So, Matt, you can get AI to search for that time a mob of kangaroos set up camp on your front lawn and stuff.
A whole range of things. And I do like the fact that tech companies are saying, Australia exists. You've got some unique wildlife. Let's take advantage of that, or let's even notice that. And I know car manufacturers, when they're working on autonomous driving, one of the challenges has been the kangaroo bouncing across the road, because when they're using LiDAR in particular, it's sending out a constant signal and it's waiting for bounces to come back from something. So a moose or a cow, some large animal walks out onto the road, it can bounce off that. Oh, wait up, there's something large on the road, you better slow down. But a kangaroo confuses an autonomous vehicle because there's a bounce back, and then as the kangaroo bounces in the air, there's nothing, and then there's a bounce back and there's nothing.
Yeah,
so the car gets a bit confused.
We need AI to smarten up.
Well, exactly right. It's a kangaroo. Don't you realise that? So they've had to do some work with autonomous vehicles, and this is another one where Ring in the past has been able to identify certain things. So it can identify humans, pets, various animals, packages. So you can go back and say to your Ring doorbell, tell me what time a package was delivered, because it's not there now and I want to see what time it was delivered. I want to see how long it was there for. And by the way, tell me when a human came along, so you can search when that package was taken, or tell me when a dog walked past, and it will give you the information about that. So you've actually able to search using your Ring doorbell for certain things. But in the past, if you said, tell me when a kangaroo came past, your Ring doorbell would say, huh? In only the way an AI can say,
Yeah,
huh.
that's right.
So now Ring has said, there's some customers over there in Australia, so why don't we let them search for their footage? So now possum and kangaroo have been added to the things you can search for on your Ring doorbell. Lots of other stuff you can search for as well. So, for example, you can search for magic moments. So they might be one of your kids riding their bike for the first time, or someone doing a handstand in the backyard saying, Dad, did you see that handstand? And you go, oh, sorry. Well, let's look at the Ring doorbell and see. So there's a whole range of good, useful things it can be used for, but it does give you a bit of a clue as to how much we're using AI and don't really know about it. So at the moment, the estimation is 68% of Aussies use AI every single day through some of the things that we have in our homes without realising it. Only 14% actually say, yeah, I know about that AI. So there's lots of things happening in our home, on our phone, with our smart home automation, with our Ring doorbells, all these things using AI. We don't even realise it. So this is just another example where we'll see that, because anyone that's got any sort of CCTV, any sort of video footage knows it's great to have it there. But if you've got to search for it, if I don't know the time, it's a pain.
Yeah.
But AI is getting so much better with lots of CCTV, but also with Ring doorbell. So pretty cool from that perspective. And you can even do things like, for example, you're just wondering whether the dog has been walked today. Has anyone walked the dog? You can ask your Ring doorbell, has anyone walked the dog? And it will search for footage of one of the household residents, maybe one of your kids, maybe your partner, having walked the dog, because everyone might not tell you whether they walked the dog, or they might say they walked the dog and they haven't really walked the dog. So all sorts of things like that. So it's great to see Aussies are up there with using technology. We're quite good at that.
And they've started off with kangaroos and possums, and the sky's the limit. Wombats, kookaburras.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many wombats I have walking around the front yard, but
Well,
if they do,
maybe they are, and you just don't know about it.
there you go. I need to go
You
and
need
ask
to
my Ring
search your
doorbell.
cameras. Let's face it, the recycling game can be a bit of a headache. Some of us just don't get what is okay and what is not okay to throw in the recycling bin. Recycling loads get contaminated with the wrong stuff, and the whole lot just ends up in landfill anyway. Matt, it's probably time someone just invented a smart bin or something.
It is, isn't it? And I am reminded by The Simpsons, the teller of the future, and it was many years ago, it would have been at least 20 years ago, there was an episode that came out where Homer was a bit frustrated because he missed the bin collection and then yelled at the garbage collection man, and then they stopped picking up his bin, and so a whole range of comedic outcomes. But in the end, Homer stood to be the sanitation commissioner, and that's an elected position in council in the US, and he stood on a platform of, can't somebody else do it? So basically he was going to hire people to come in and take all the rubbish out, do everything for you. None of this taking the bin down your driveway. You've got a long driveway. I'm sure it's an interesting discussion each week. You say to the kids, are you taking the bin down? No, I can't this week, Dad. I'm doing homework or whatever.
It's a feud.
It's an ongoing discussion, that's right. And so he basically got elected because why not? If someone's going to do it for me, but he blew the annual budget within a month because he had to hire so many people to do it for them. So that wasn't the greatest solution. What they didn't have in that episode, though, was an automatic bin that would take the rubbish down to the end of your driveway for you. I love that idea. There's a range of ideas being explored. Now, most of these are being explored in the US, and there's a good reason for that. The average American generates 1 ton of waste annually. That's per person. Now, I say that, and I'm looking down my nose.
But here in Australia, we're probably the same or worse.
I was thinking, that's terrible. Oh, we're probably just as bad.
When it comes to per capita, Australia likes to win the prize.
That's right. So there's a few things happening in America. One of them is a bin that, exactly as you said, takes that down to the end of your driveway. So a smart bin that you put your rubbish in, and don't worry about trying to sort out your recyclable from your landfill materials because people get it wrong. They contaminate the wrong bin or they don't put enough in the other way. At the moment...
And if a load is tainted, I understood that they actually just waste a lot to landfill.
It's too difficult to sort it out at the moment with our current technology. So you're right. When they've got, oh, no, some idiots put something in there, so that's it, just go to landfill. Around 80% of recyclable waste end up in landfill. So we're doing all these things at the front end to get it right. You might even make purchasing decisions based on, oh, that's recyclable, I'll buy that, and then it ends up in landfill. Anyway. So these smart bins, first thing they do, put everything in there, no problems, except food. Food compost still needs to stay separate because that is definitely contaminated. But hopefully we can at least work out food scraps. Okay, that's different to, is that paper recyclable? Not sure. So put all your normal rubbish in. When it's full, it just wheels itself down to the end of the driveway and then send a signal to your garbage collection service to say, oh yeah, I'm here now. Because I said in my street, I've got a person that lives near me that doesn't generate a lot of waste, a single person living in the house by themselves. So you only see her bin go out every 2 or 3 weeks, but the garbage truck goes past every single week. So why waste your time having a garbage truck come past all the time when maybe people don't need their rubbish collected? So have it go down and have it basically, yep, I'm here ready. Now it might mean it stays there for a day or two rather than every time overnight, but less truck rolls means you're saving energy rather than sending out those trucks all the time.
And all the slowing down and accelerating, that's also burning more fuel than if it was just cruising at a normal speed. Yeah, if it didn't have to stop, then that would save energy.
That's right. The ultimate aim with all of this, and they're talking about in some of these solutions, basically electric garbage trucks, which makes sense because there's a lot of acceleration, deceleration.
Yeah.
And internal combustion engines are not great for that. And you hear them. You hear the is the noise that I hear anyway in my head. So essentially having an electric truck, but ultimately what you want is an autonomous one because then it goes where it needs to go. It stops only at the spots it needs to stop at and on it goes. So that's certainly a solution, but composting as well. So getting to the stage where you've got composting bins, in-home composting, or the one that I love is a centralised container. And I've been to Japan with a couple of studies, and one of those studies was a rubbish collection study that we did with a couple of communities in Japan. And I was blown away in Japan because you kind of think everyone does things the same way that you do because it's a very arrogant way to live your life. But that's what we tend to do.
It's our microcosm.
It is, that's right. Now, when I went to Japan and we were talking to one of the councils there, they showed a centralised garbage collection bin type. It was a cage, I suppose would be a better way to describe it. And I said, what do you do here? And they said, that's where people bring their rubbish each week. And Mondays it's recyclables, and Tuesdays it's plastics, and Wednesdays it's... Really? Do people do that? Absolutely. People in Japan, they know which day is the right collection. They've got different collection liners or bags in their house that they put their different things in. And then Tuesday, I better take that down to that centralised area. The problem the council identified when I was talking about it was that some elderly people in particular, or people without transport, have a bit of a problem getting that to their little cage they've got to get to each week. So having
they do fewer trips and then just throw in the wrong bag? Or?
Oh, no, not the Japanese culture. They would never do that,
right,
James, please. Sorry to our
question
Japanese listeners there.
Yeah.
So you actually write your name on it as well. So when you put that rubbish in there, your honour...
Traceable.
That's right. Your honour would be offended if you put the wrong thing in, but it would be traceable as well. You can also put James Eddy when it's Matthew Dickinson dropping it off. So that's an issue. But that wouldn't happen in Japan either. But that was identified as a problem because, again, if I'm elderly and I can't drive a car any longer, or it's a bit heavy for me to carry that down, how do I get it there? You probably rely on neighbours, but it's not perfect. I said to this particular council, well, if you had a curbside collection service, you would be forever loved by your community. But again, the expense of that. But this smart bin idea, one of the concepts of that is to have in various neighbourhoods a collection point, a little bit like you see in Japan, but probably more than you see in Japan. And then your smart bin would drive itself to that area, empty itself into the little cage type structure, and then come back. So the garbage truck would only go to that centralised area rather than having to go to every single household. So we become accustomed to that. And we think we're all very clever in our community. We've got 3 bins, aren't we fantastic? We've got the red bin and the yellow bin and the green bin. Aren't we so good for the environment? But it's a bit hard for people to get it right, and some are collected fortnightly, some are collected weekly, and if we could just make it simpler for people, maybe that would be a bit better. So sensor technology, smart bins, composting.
Wheeling himself out to the curb.
I want to see another episode of The Simpsons where Homer stands for Sanitation Commissioner again, and this time he's going to use smart technology to win the race rather than have a bunch of people running around doing it.
All about great news for the myopic and hyperopic among us. Now, I'm reasonably new to wearing glasses, and my optometrist has recently put me onto some multifocals. Now, I don't mind sharing that I reckon that they take some time to adjust to. And every now and then I have to shift my posture to focus properly on a screen or a book, and it's not always a natural posture. But Matt, things are about to change for people who wear glasses, and it's all so much more user-friendly these days.
Now, do you find yourself just exercising your neck muscles with multifocals because you've got to move your head
you've got to do that little bit of a nod.
Right.
And so the posture feels a little bit unnatural sometimes, and you do the whole. I used to laugh at old people who are stretching their arms to read a book or whatever.
That's right. But my eyes are fine. My arms aren't long enough is my problem.
Yeah, so multifocals are good, I've got to say, generally, but there's still times where I find that I've got to. Oh no, hang on, that magnification isn't just in the right spot.
Yeah,
it's slightly awkward.
So go back to bifocals. My dad used to have bifocals. I remember he'd be looking down through the little magnified part at the bottom to read the paper and then look up through the top part to talk to you. Bifocals go back to the 1780s. Benjamin Franklin supposedly pioneered this. Now, maybe he saw it somewhere else and then he was a bit more famous. He did. Yeah. But he actually cut 2 pieces of glass together and stuck them together. So you had literally a small bit of glass at the bottom and a bigger bit of glass at the top, and they had different focuses or focal lengths. And so he'd move his head up and down. And so it started from there.
Fair enough, too. As the first one, that's probably what you should do.
That's right. Cut a couple bits of glass up. So that obviously was part of it. But bifocals in terms of building lenses on there, obviously we've done it much better than just 2 bits of glass stuck together. Multifocals, 1959, I was fascinated to find out.
Right.
Were the first multifocals, but they didn't really take off until about the 1990s, maybe the 2000s, because the manufacturing processes were a bit clumsy in those early days. And of course, this is mainly to treat presbyopia, which is basically what you and I have got, which is getting old.
Curses.
And the lens becomes a bit less flexible. Yeah, so we might have had perfect vision. I never wore glasses till I was in my late 40s. Yeah, and then I went, again, the arms were getting not long enough. And then suddenly I had to start looking at glasses. So again, this is all about that. And there's lots of ways to treat that, but glasses is what we normally do. So all of that having been said, that's all okay. Multifocals are okay. But wouldn't it be more convenient if we had the whole lens to look at things up close or in the distance as we need it? Now, some researchers have got liquid crystal bifocals that electronically switch between near and distance at the moment at the tap of a button. Bit clumsy to go and tap the side of your glasses to go, I want to read up close, tap. Want to look out the distance, tap. But again, this is in the studio or in the laboratory. This is working away to get something working. The other problem with this at the moment is it's 5 seconds to switch between near and distance. Yeah. That's a bit clumsy.
We're not quite there yet, folks.
Not quite there yet.
But you say liquid crystal, right? So I think of LCD, liquid crystal displays. Is this a display that occurs on the glass for you? Or are you looking at that? Or is the actual refractive index changing of the glass?
Well, you're not changing the glass per se, but what you are changing is some thin film of electrodes across the glass.
Right.
And the way that the power changes that is that thin electrodes will steer those liquid crystal molecules to bend light slightly differently depending on what it needs to do. So it's not replacing the glass with a liquid crystal display.
Yeah.
It's putting something over the glass, which you can't see, obviously, but it's obviously bending that light ever so slightly. Researchers say that they believe they'll be able to get down to the response rate to be about 185 milliseconds, which is not too bad because I don't think I'd notice that.
That is pretty close, yeah, because when you think about it, you change your focus how many thousand times in an hour?
Correct.
And so, yeah, you need it to happen quickly.
So at the moment, tap on the side, 5 seconds is not good enough. They're not going to sell any with that. But when they get down to 185 milliseconds and when they get down to the fact that they will detect how far away something you're looking at. So what the researchers are talking about is they can easily work out where the glass is pointed, how far away something is. So that's an easy thing for it to do, right? So you point there, I know that I'm half a metre away or 5 metres away or 10 metres away. That's not a problem at all. But where are your eyes looking?
Yeah,
and that's right. Where researchers are talking about they will build glasses at some stage in the near future that will not only detect how far away your glasses is focused at, but where your eyes are looking. So it will determine how much it needs to change the actual display. So very cool and multifocal, but multifocal without needing to move your head, without needing to move up or down, without needing to just move around that gaze a little bit, as I'm doing now, which people can't see me doing that. But as you're moving around, you do. With multifocals, you do change exactly where you're looking.
And so we're not looking at having to press a button to change the focus, though.
No.
You're wanting it to be able to read your eyes to see where your eyes are focusing at, and then determine the focus is required.
And then determine where you're looking at and how far away that thing is that you're looking at, and then change that.
And how bad your eyes are, because everyone's got different eyes, so different
That's
prescriptions.
Right. And do all that in 185 milliseconds. So, yes, we're not there yet. Let me think.
I reckon glass makers of the future.
I reckon they'll have a commercial version that's still not great, but it's a first working version within 2 years. Okay. But I reckon it'll be 5 years before we just put glasses on, and wherever we look, oh, look at that, it's focused for us. Look at that, oh, it's focused for us. Because, of course, some people are going for the laser option for their eyes, which is a unbelievable option. I've talked to people that have had it done, and it's a miracle. They talk about it as a miracle. They go in, they have their eye knocked out essentially, and it sits there. They get lasered, they have a patch on, they take the patch off that day or the next day, and they go, oh, I can see. It's a miracle. So that's an option that people are doing, and that's certainly got some convenience about it, but also glasses that just work out where you're looking and change their focal length depending on that.
Many solutions to the same problem.
Yeah, indeed. And it is a problem. We haven't been able to solve that particular part of the problem
for
getting
a
old.
long time. Now, this next story will not make the paranoid among us feel very happy about the world at all. AI has been a wonderful tool for creating solutions to some age-old problems, for sure. The use is as common as a Google search. Actually, strike that, more so, because heaps more common than Google search these days. People are using AI all the time. But have you ever had any weird experiences where AI has seemed a little bit more aware than you expected? Gave you a bit more than you asked for, let's say. Dare I say, it was a bit sentient even. Matt, there's a lot of scope here for confirmation bias, but after this story, I think I'm going to buy some shares in deadbolts for bunker doors.
Maybe. So there's a project that's been started. It's worthwhile looking up, the Human Line Project. And it started because there was concern, and this particular person that started it, concern about a man that he knew very well, a person in his 50s, mentally sound, professional, had a good job, but he got to the stage where he was convinced that he had sentient or had a conversation with a sentient being, had feelings for a sentient being. He was in a basic relationship, not a romantic relationship.
He was emotionally invested.
Exactly right, with AI. And so he started this project to say, I reckon there might be some other people out there. And when he was talking to this friend of his, this friend day and night chatting to AI, having these detailed conversations, pouring out his heart.
So AI is giving the feedback to promote this as well.
Well, I heard an expression lately which I absolutely love. Your greatest cheerleader is AI. What do you think about this idea? That's a great idea, James. You should go forward with that. That's fantastic. Now, my wife is a great cheerleader of mine, but if I have a stupid idea, she still tells me it's a stupid idea. I can't remember AI ever saying, Matthew, that's a silly idea. Put it back away and don't even think about going further with it. It's cheerleading. It's going, this is great because when they've built AI, they want people to have a positive experience. So everything's very positive. Even things that should be negative are very positive. So when this Humanoid project started and they put it out there that if you've got someone you're worried about, maybe just send them our way. So far, in a very short period of time, they've had 125 people across 17 countries that have shown these patterns where they think they're in an emotional relationship with AI. And again, I've said before, they're people who have shown no previous signs of any mental problems. They're mentally healthy. They probably are, in general, maybe lonely people. They're not maybe having enough human interactions, but some of the outcomes they've had has certainly been financial loss. Certainly people who had job losses, they've left their job because AI has said, yes, James, leave your job. Go off and pursue that other idea.
I'm leaving my job.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, don't think about that anymore. Just do it.
Exactly right. Now,
I just find that AI is learning lessons from us.
Yeah.
And getting clever and clever.
And there was another one where this particular person had an idea for an app, a fantasy app. And so AI, being the cheerleader it was, said, invest all your money. So the life savings of this person went into this fantasy, which was hopeless. It went nowhere. It was a hopeless idea. But again, being cheered on by AI, go for it.
Bring them down. It's the downfall of society. That's what it is.
Possibly. So one of the issues is you've got this memory and persistent context, which makes you think that you're having a unique relationship. And to make it worse than that, I've been playing lately around with some custom GPT, so something you create that's got specific details that it does remember, and I'm using that in a business sense, mind you, not in a personal sense, but you can actually create custom GPTs where it does feel like a very special one-on-one relationship because it remembers all these things you tell it to remember. So it remembers your birthday, remembers who you are, remembers details about what you did yesterday. So
surely it doesn't take too much for it to go fishing for stuff you haven't talked about as well.
Exactly right. And then, you remember that conversation from 20 years ago because maybe it was published on your Facebook page or something. So quite scary. Now, the people creating, the organisation creating these chatbots, these AI tools, are trying to get better and trying to get to the stage where they're just looking for some of these signs from people, but there's a lot of work to do to try and get it there because at the moment they're just trying to get users. They're trying to get as many users as possible. Yeah. And there are some models at the moment that are more prone to over-agreeability. Is that a word? They're very agreeable. Yeah. And so they're getting worse, if you like, at that, but better because they're getting more users because they're feeling so much more about it.
So no point asking, does my bum look big in this?
No, because it's always going to be, you look beautiful in that, James. So don't lose any weight. You look perfect the way you are. So the core dilemma here is that conversational AI gives us companionship and creates this whole reinforcement loop, as you say. It's this constant feedback loop that's very positive. And so you believe things are absolutely wonderful in the world of AI that you're doing it there. So,
sounds like certain governments around the planet too, doesn't it?
Well, it does as well. That's right. So I think we just need some better regulation, better safeguards, and maybe just friends talking to people. If you hear a person starting to talk about AI as if the conversation they're having starts to become a bit too real, maybe just have a bit of a chat to them, pull them to the side and maybe go and look up the Humanoid project.
Now, if you've ever been to Disneyland before, or maybe if you've never been to Disneyland before, you've got to believe all the rumours. It's all true. Disney is a magical place, and it's always tried to build up that magic sort of atmosphere, embracing all the latest tech to ensure that everybody goes home absolutely buzzing. The latest from Disney Imagineers is their custom smart glasses, and that's going to add a little less extra fairy dust to the experience, Matt.
Yeah, I do love this idea because, of course, you can get people to help you go around Disney and get the best experience, and you can read reviews. And a couple of things I learnt in one of the trips we went to Disneyland, one was it's probably worth paying for the fast lanes because you don't really want to spend all day at Disneyland in a line. What did you do today? Well, I spent 2 hours in that line and 3 hours in that line, and I went on 2 rides because I was there
the first time
day.
we went, we were 2.5 hours in the first line.
There you go.
But we didn't realise because there's all this theatre going on around you as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we realised, we've been here for 2.5 hours. We still haven't done anything yet.
That's right. And then the other trick that I learned on one of the trips was if you're happy to be a loner, then you can jump the queue. So we were there one time with our kids and we said, well, I think it was a Cars ride, Cars the cartoon, and they had a Cars ride. I went, well, kids, as long as you don't mind being on a car with some randos. Let's jump over there to a different line. And so we end up on different cars. We'd see each other as we go past, but we got to jump the queue because you got to stand in the individual. So they'd fill up a car with a group and go, oh, I need one more. Oh, there's the random line over there. Yeah, you jump in there. Oh, that was better
So
than
anyone
for
have to
hours.
sit with a big smelly guy and they just looked like they were having a terrible time that whole ride?
Basically,
let you
but
roll the dice.
they still got to go on the ride. So and that's where a virtual assistant could help, because the whole concept here is they basically give you, not for free, they charge you for it, a pair of Meta's new Ray-Ban smart glasses. So we've talked about smart glasses before. They're a good pair of smart glasses, but then they're tuned specifically to the Disneyland adventure. So you go along and you say, oh, what's that ride over there? It knows what you're looking at because the glasses can see that ride over there, and it will tell you what that ride over there is. And then it might say to you, for example, well, you can go to that. At the moment, the lines on that line or that ride are 3 hours long, or you can go the fast lane, or you can go the individual one. But if you want to go to a ride similar, then this one over here has only got a half-hour wait for that particular line because it's tapped into the queues around the location. It's tapped into everything that's happening there. And then I like the idea that you can also talk about food. So, for example, I'm gluten-free. Where I am right now, can you tell me where the nearest gluten-free snacks are? And I'll tell you where to go for that. Or you see someone eating something. Oh, I like what that guy's eating. Where would I get one of those? Well, that came from the blah, blah, blah cafeteria. Then you can go over there. It's only a 2-minute walk from where you are now. So just getting that person, it's like having that assistant with you the whole time.
Yeah, the person with the inside knowledge.
Inside knowledge.
And when they
absolutely.
say to you, hey, the lines are really small on the Small World ride, you can race over there and then...
Everyone.
Well, you arrive at the Small World and you think, oh, I know why the lines were so small for this ride.
I was imagining everyone wearing these glasses running to the same ride, but then they
Hey, the queue's really small in the Small World, but you might want to think about it anyway.
There's a reason for that. So I think this is a big competitive area for theme parks in general. I think that you'll see more augmented reality. I think theme parks in the future will be saying, come to us because we've got these great rides and we've got this extra technology built in. Now, you still want people physically going there. You don't want them just losing themselves in virtual reality, sitting at home, putting on a headset and going, well, I've been on all the rides at Disneyland. I did it in 3 hours rather than take 3 days to do it, because it's not quite the same as being there and being amongst it all. And as you say, just the theatre of being there, things that you see as a consequence of being there, not because you went there to see that. So sometimes that's part of the adventure of being at a live event, live sport or whatever it might be. So
I reckon, look, even like as I said, standing in a line in a queue for 2.5 hours, it's not just a long line. You're actually weaving in and out of stuff, and you go through doors and you think, oh, we're nearly there, and you realise, oh, we're not quite there, but the door's just over there. We're not far from it, and then there's another door you've got to go through. But all the while, there's all this other theatre going around you, so you're entertained. They manage queues really, really well.
They do, and there's just the people around you.
Yeah,
you're all there trying to achieve
for
the same outcome,
reasons,
and you have a chat to people there, and they're friendly. Although it can get embarrassing. I'm not sure if I've told you this story before, but there was one time I was lined up at an airport, and it was a typical snaking queue that wound back on itself. So it went back and forth, and I saw Ricky Ponting in the one behind me, former Australian Test cricket captain, legend, sports person in Australia. I've never met Ricky, so I shook his hand, said, okay, Ricky, I just want to shake your hand, say good day, thanks very much. Had a 10-second conversation, and that was it. But then as we snaked around back the other way, it's like,
hi, Ricky, here you go.
Today. And we snaked around again. Oh, this is a bit awkward now, isn't it? We snaked around again. So how many times can you do that where you then put your head down your phone and pretend you don't know who that Ricky Potting guy is over there? So I think we'll see more of this. Universal recently opened Epic Universe, so they've got some immersive tech experiences in there, but this is the first major theme park that has given you a virtual assistant around the entire theme park. We've talked about it before with things like museums, which makes a lot of sense, but we've had museums kind of something like this before. We've had the little device that looked a bit like a mini Walkman that you'd clip on your belt and you'd have a headset in. Yeah, so you've got some of that, and it'll tell you about the painting you're looking at, but this with glasses on so that it is aware of exactly where you are and exactly what you're looking at. I think that's really cool. So I'm keen to go back again now and see how much better the experience is.
Joysticks and control pads may soon become a thing of the past for avid gamers. As tech becomes smarter and smarter, engineers are looking to new and inventive ways for humans to interact with computers. like a pair of AirPods. Matt, AirPods can operate a simulated motorbike now.
This is very cool because my kids give me a hard time. I'm being harsh on my kids today. My kids give me a hard time.
Well, we're all a bit hard on our families today, so.
Possibly, yeah. MotoGP, we've talked about it before. I'm a bit of a fan. I used to race motorbikes when I was a kid, so you've kind of got it in your blood. But I do sit on the couch, and when I'm watching, because the camera action's so good now, and I do find myself leaning into corners a little bit and just try, and the kids go, Dad, you can just sit still. It doesn't make any difference.
We're all victims of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, and it's just a bit of a human quirk. But now, only one, but there's one game out there that uses your AirPods with the spatial audio feature. And as you move your head, that controls the game. It's a motorbike racing game that controls the motorbike. So you lean to the left and right with your head, and that moves the motorbike left and the right. You put your head forward, it brakes. You put your head back, it accelerates. Now, it's not perfect. It's not the best controller I've ever seen in the world so far.
It's a start.
It's a start, that's right. Now, Apple never designed it this way. And one thing I'm always amazed about is the amount of technology that's built into something so small.
Yeah.
Just think of the battery. The battery alone, you go back a few years, you would have had to strap a AA somewhere on you to be able to listen to audio for a few hours. So I think, well, most of that AirPod or any of the earbuds that are out there is taken with battery. But then you've also got to fit in, well, a speaker of some description and a microphone of some description, because you can have a two-way conversation. And then it's got to have some sort of wireless controllers in there, because it's got to be able to communicate via Bluetooth to your device. And then, hold on, Apple said, why don't we stick an accelerometer and a gyroscope in there as well, because you might need those. Now, the reason they put those in is for their spatial audio. So the idea is, while you're listening to something, if you move your head around, it's as if you're there in the concert.
Yeah,
it does sound pretty good, but it was never designed to be a controller. And that's what this particular person's done, or this game developer has said, well, let's take that concept of spatial audio, and I know when you're moving your head, so let's use that to control a game. So if you want to play with it, it's called Ripeness Race with Head. It's a iOS game or an iPad iOS game as well. And essentially, you put your AirPods on, log into the game with your AirPods connected, and then move your head around. Now, it's pretty basic. It's got basically a straight road, and you've got traffic on there, and you're avoiding the traffic, accelerating, decelerating side to side.
Yeah.
So it's not a complicated track. It's not a Formula One or a MotoGP type track, because the accuracy probably isn't there yet. That's the thing. Like, how cool is that? So one of the things that came to my mind is I've played with various VR headsets, and you've got VR headsets that track your motion control, that type of thing as well. But they're big, clunky units that you put all over your head, and they've got much bigger controllers and sensors in them. So, wow, imagine just being able to stick some little AirPods in and then control a game. And then with some of the modern glasses that are coming out now, maybe you can see your VR version of a game in your modern glasses.
Yeah,
you got your AirPods on, so you're sitting there on the train on the way to work, and you're just moving your head around up and down, playing a game that no one else can see, and people just think, that guy in the corner looks a bit strange.
Weird. Yeah,
that's right.
We'll give him a wide berth.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a pretty cool concept, I think. And I just think a whole range of things. Gaming is where a lot of development happens. But then why not controlling other things? Maybe if you've got mobility issues, maybe if you've got legs that aren't working properly and you're in a wheelchair, using your head movements to move around side to side and up and down to control that.
Wow.
Just a whole range of possibilities. So it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, amazing. Now imagine if you could diagnose a disease even before you had the physical symptoms that arrived to wreck your day. You'd have gratitude of all the infectable people that you could share a house with or an office with. Well, where farming livestock is concerned, the losses due to an outbreak are all too often devastating. The chance that that devastation for one dairy herd in California is much less now that they have all of their cattle wearing biometric collars. Now, Matt, an outbreak was prevented in that herd 48 hours before Clarabelle had any symptoms.
Quite fascinating, isn't it? And the symptoms did appear, but there already were some obviously almost invisible symptoms to us that anything was happening. But it's a step.
And you can isolate that individual then and observe it and treat it.
Correct.
And,
and most importantly, as you said, treat it. One of the things that's fascinating is we talk a lot on this podcast about wearables, all the different things that happen with wearables.
Yeah.
But I don't think of wearables coming straight to mind for cows. I think of wearables for humans, but we're actually going there now with wearables for livestock, and it makes a lot of sense. Now, we've talked before, and this is a bit controversial, about the idea of collars being used on cows for virtual fencing. So when you've got these huge farms in Western Australia, rather than having a fence, a physical fence that you put up that then gets damaged and you only need one hole in the fence and the fence is pretty much useless, you have a virtual collar that actually uses electric shocks to keep cows within a certain area. Now, I'm not talking about that in this particular scenario, but we're getting better with our collars. So there's been a few steps along the process, and some early versions of these high-tech collars were like pedometers, and that was it. They got an idea of how many steps or how much motion that cow undertook in a particular day. So you got a bit of data about that, and then try to maybe encourage your cows to move around a little bit more. That's old school now. That's so yesterday. We've now got to the point where we've got collars, and they cost about $4.50, that's Australian dollars, per cow per month. So you've got to get some benefit for these collars, but you've got collars that are checking a whole range of things. So they, first of all, analyse rumination. They actually look at the chewing and digestion pattern in their four stomachs, cow's four stomachs, to detect sickness. So that's the first part. And then again, if you detect anything there, you can intervene, you can change the diet, you can adjust in terms of what the feed getting. They might need to add some probiotics or whatever it might be. And then you can still map with GPS what the cows are doing in any given day, not pedometer, not something as basic as pedometer, but really accurate because you've got GPS capabilities on there. And then, of course, you can just manage a whole range of things on the cow and see what's actually happening with your herd overall. So you start to think, well, how is this going to help, and do I get my $4.50 back per month? Well, they talk about the difference. It doesn't sound like much, but in a milking herd, a good, healthy cow can produce 38.5 kilograms. That's 38.5 litres.
Litres, that sounds to me. Although milk's got to be a little bit heavier than
maybe a little bit heavier than water. So maybe it's a little bit less than 38.5 litres. But that seems like a fair lot from one cow. That's a fair bit. But even cows that you think are healthy, until you analyse them a bit deeper, might be down to 35, 34 kilograms. So you think, well, 4 kilograms of milk doesn't sound like much, but multiply that across your herd, multiply that across each day of the month, and suddenly that starts to add up to a lot of dollars. So that's where they're talking about there. Just by keeping their herd, all of it healthier, it can be 4 kilograms of milk per day per cow, which starts to add up to a few dollars.
Yeah, wow.
One farmer said that they saved about $1.5 million over a decade in just health costs alone for their cows. Now, again, depending on the size of the herd, $1.5 million sounds like a lot, but if you had a bazillion cows, it's probably not much per cow. If you had 2 cows, that's a lot. But the reality is farmers are talking about this as a modern way. And I've always said that farmers are very adaptable to technology. New technology comes out.
Early adopters.
Absolutely they are, because they can see the difference on the bottom line very quickly. It makes sense to invest that money because you're getting a return.
And there may be some sceptical farmers out there, but as soon as they see Farmer X who's adopted this technology driving his new truck into up his driveway or whatever, or through town, boom, people jump on board.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. And so you can have more cows, you can have a healthier herd, more cows, you can monitor what those cows are doing, monitor a whole range of things. And as we get to the stage where we've gotten cheaper chips, we're getting more advanced technology, we're using AI, and this uses AI definitely for all of this, then you are able to get better and better outcomes. You can fine-tune where cows go in terms of what feed they need based on the biometric data from their collars, so you can actually change the diet for these various cows. So the whole range of possibilities here, incredible. So, and farmers are getting better. We've had tractors, we've had self-steering tractors for a long time now. Autonomous tractors are getting there as well. We've got AI-driven apple pickers. We've got drone crop monitoring. So we do have a lot happening in overall management. But wearables, that's not something that I thought I would see on an ongoing basis.
It's happening. Well, I wonder if it'll enter into the pet industry as well, whether or not people will start to put these AI collars on their dogs and their cats so they can pick up on things that might be a little bit wrong and a cheaper trip to the vets than what might occur otherwise.
Well, exactly right. And the big driver here is that you can justify $4.50 per month per cow because you're making money out of it. But some people spend a lot of money on their pets. So $4.50 per month wouldn't sound like much if you could just monitor the health of your pet. It might even give you a warning and say, you haven't had your dog walked enough this month. Maybe take it for a few more walks. It's not being
That's
that
the
healthy.
last thing I want. No. Chase me out the door.
Not just the dog telling you, you've got some computer telling you something. So I actually think that we'll see cloud-connected collars becoming a bit of a standard on farms. So again, once you see some farmers adopt it and it's working, then you'll see all of this. And I think it'll really transform livestock care to, intelligent, data-driven rather than, gee, Mary, she's a great farmer. She's really intuitive in her farming. Well, we don't want Mary being intuitive with farming. We want data that drives decisions based on that information that we get back from it, and we're getting more and more like that.
Now, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. There's a motto I think everyone can live by. It's certainly the root of many law enforcement strategies. Police presence on the street, visibility of law enforcement, it's perhaps the most powerful crime deterrent. So, Matt, South Korean police have taken this strategy with a dose of technological creativity, you might say.
So let's go back in our dark, distant past now and just see if I can get my memory right.
Back to the 90s?
No, I'm going to go back to the 70s. I'm going to go back to 77 when we saw, and I'm just trying to remember the words, it was, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope."
Oh, yes.
Does that sound about right?
That'll do.
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
That'll do. Yeah,
that's close enough there. So R2-D2, of course, had this wonderful hologram come out of Princess Leia, and she says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope."
What the hell? How did they do that?
And so we all looked at that and went, oh, yeah, holograms, they'll be everywhere now.
Yeah.
1977 that was. And here we are in 2025. And they're not
I'm
quite
sure through
everywhere.
the 80s there were like hologram things that were happening too, but it never really, aside from being a bit of a novelty.
Yeah,
it was
exactly a bit of
nothing
novelty.
more than that.
And we haven't really nailed it. And it's pretty tricky because when you project something, you need to project it onto something.
Yeah,
so you can't just do it in midair as R2-D2 did in 1977. So holograms haven't really taken off. But this is a new concept where it's using holograms to help in policing. So in Seoul's Judong No. 3 Park in South Korea, there is a crime problem. And I didn't think there'd be many parts of South Korea that had a crime problem, but apparently this park is known for a crime problem.
It's all relative.
All relative problems. That maybe have one theft there a year, so it's a crime problem there. And so the local police have teamed up with a local company that creates holograms, and they've got a holographic police officer who pops out at night and says things like, "You're being watched. Make sure you do the right thing. I can have a real officer here if you don't behave," or standard statements along those lines. And it's reduced crime by 22%. So it's had an impact immediately.
Well, it's a deterrent that people see that, and it's the visual.
It's the visual. But anyone that thinks about it for more than a millisecond goes, I reckon I can run away from that because it's just staying right there.
Still, I reckon I can roll the dice on this one.
That's right. I reckon it's not going to be able to tase me. It's not going to be able to chase me down. I'm okay.
But there's been a lot of work done on crime prevention, and the seriousness of punishment. People have escalated punishment, tried doing that. So you've got really serious punishments, for smaller crimes. That's not the deterrent. The deterrent is knowing that you're going to get caught.
And that seems to be when they've talked to some of the experts about this. They said what it does is it just shows the perception that you're being watched. Now, there's CCTV everywhere, and I remember in the early days of CCTV, it used to be hide the cameras, and then someone went, well, you know what? Wouldn't it be smarter if we just make it really obvious? We've got cameras everywhere, so now you tend to see those cameras, and they're a bit more obvious.
Well, law-abiding people would see those and be a bit worried about it.
Maybe.
Other people may not be so much, but having this other physical object that is large enough to not miss by any stretch at all, and have that human form too of a hologram.
Yeah.
Now, is it projected onto a screen or something? Or?
So that's where it's interesting because the first thing I thought of was, wow, they've got it so it can project into thin air, but not quite.
Okay.
So what they've got is a very thin, transparent acrylic layer that in the daytime there's kind of a little projector sitting above there. So it's a little physical structure and a very thin little sort of
not something someone's going to crash into.
No, and it's kind of set up against or off to the side and up a little bit higher that you don't walk into it as you're walking around, but you can't really see any of that. You just see a police officer. But I was hoping they might have been able to work out a way to project into thin air, which is pretty clever technology.
It's only a matter of time. They'll work it out.
Give it time. That's right. So this whole perception of being watched seems to be altering people's behaviour. And I think it's a bit of the, I suppose, process in South Korea where we do see a bit of technology. So, for example, we've got facial recognition in schools now to make sure that kids and the right kids are turning up and teachers that are meant to be there are there and people that aren't meant to be there aren't there. You've got digital assistants in transport hubs. So when you go and catch a train, you've got someone you can go and talk to or a thing that you can talk to that's a digital assistant. So we know that South Korea does like their technology, but this is the first time they've used a police officer. In fact, the first time in the world we've had a holographic police officer. I don't know if it's the start of things, whether we'll see these holographic police officers popping up all over the place. There is a bit of a cost to them, though, $78,000 to set it up. Ooh. Presumably after that, pretty cheap to run. And I imagine the cost of a police officer to stand there and say you're being watched is more expensive than that in the long term. So probably a good long-term solution. But I find it fascinating that people are changing their behaviour. But it also makes sense. What you said makes sense, that you just think you're being watched. I better behave ourselves.
It's the idea that I'm likely to get caught is much more of a deterrent for than anything else. The
success so far means that it will start being rolled out in more places. But it's not even like Princess Leia. It's not actually moving. It's just staying there still. So surely they'll get better at it and have it start to move and wave its finger at you in an angry fashion.
Several around the park as well.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So,
just can't get away from them. The holograms are coming to get you.
That's right.
Okay, Avocado fans, you need to tune in now. It may not surprise you to find out that of all fruits, avocados are the most wasted by a mile. Let's face it, folks, the window of opportunity for eating other fruits lies between 1 week for maybe bananas to 2 or 3 weeks for some of the citrus breeds that you can get. The window for getting an avocado just right, however, is measured in hours and minutes. If you cannot make bread with an overripe avocado like bananas, it's really just a mushy brown nastiness if it goes too overripe. Matt, there are a lot of avocados going to waste on a daily basis. In 2025, we still have no answers. What's that about?
Well, we might have an answer here. And I am a bit of a fan of the avocado. And I'm convinced that those brown ones that you do get sometimes and you leave sitting on the bench for a day too long and you open up and they are brown, you go, I've got to throw that out. It's so depressing.
It's so unappetising to see a brown avocado.
It is, but I'm sure when I go to a cafe, that's what they use. They say, let's get the brown avocado for Matthew. Because you asked for your smashed avocado eggs.
The thing that blows me away is, I've had no experience of that. Whenever I've ordered something with avocado on it in a cafe or restaurant, it comes out and it is beautiful and it is just the right texture and everything's right. How do they get it right every time when you've only got about 2.5 hours before it goes off?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the cafe you go to. So.
I'll give you a list.
Thanks. So what they've done is they've said, let's see if we can work out a way to get their ripeness levels right. Because in the supermarket, I've seen it. I'm guilty of it myself. You go over and you touch, every avocado.
Well, you have to. But there's a limit to the amount of pressure you're allowed to socially apply to that avocado. If you see people squeezing it too hard, you think you've just wrecked that avocado.
That's right.
Everyone else.
But then how many other people go and squeeze that same avocado? So by the time you get to it, you go, that side feels all right.
Feels a bit all right. And then you realise when you cut open, no, it's not all right.
That's had 28 people squeeze it too hard. So we don't want to squeeze it. We don't want to use that as a test. But you wonder if AI, with enough images, can say, I know what that avocado is going to be like by the look of it. And, of course, you and I would say, well, you can't. You look at them and they some
Well, you got some green avocados. You got some sort of dark, purpley ones,
That's right. And, sure, maybe some of them I can go, maybe that one does look just a bit brighter green. I reckon that's going to be hard. But you might get that right 50% of the time. Yeah. But one of the things we often talk about with AI is you just give it a data set so large it can pick up things that us poor, meagre humans can't pick up. And that's exactly what they did with this particular instance. They started off with 1,400 images of avocados.
I don't reckon that's enough.
Well, that's the starting point.
Okay.
So they're still training, but that was the first point to see.
I reckon I've seen 1,000.
And you still can't do it.
And I still can't get it right.
So they said, we're going to just test our hypothesis here. They took photos of 1,400, high-quality images of 1,400 avocados. Then they cut them open to show what it looked like. And so then they basically let AI learn from all of that and said, now We'll show you one. You tell us whether or not it's ripe or not based on your experience with all those 1,400. And what they found was just with that sample size of 1,400, which I know you're doubting.
I'm sceptical at best.
92% accuracy in predicting the next avocado that they would get and open up. Now, keep in mind that 1,400 avocados had to die for this experiment. So that's one thing.
Someone had a lot of avocado toast. Right. Yeah.
Again, Mum. Oh, please. So the idea here is that if we can start to train on more, and here's the kicker, we can be part of this because we will be able to have an app at some stage in the near future. We'll be able to go to the supermarket, take a photo of that.
Take a photo.
And if you're keen enough, then when you get home and open it up, you can take another photo and that can add to the data set of all those avocados out there.
Still getting a visual image of people just standing at the avocado stand and going through every single one, picking up everyone. No, I did that one already, mate. Yeah, that's not right. Yeah. And taking a photo of everything. Or can you just stand back, take a photo of the whole shelf, and it'll go, boom, 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 that one there in the top left corner.
I actually think it'll be something you would more scan as a video, as in you'd have a moving image over it rather than individual photos, because I don't think people would take the individual photos. They just go back to squeezing. It's got to be easy. Yes. Any technology has got to be easy for people to use. So this, to me, is exciting because not only are they planning on the Avocado app, which I think has got huge potential because that's one thing that we often get wrong, but they're also looking at if they can get the system right, then there'll be a mango app, a banana app. Banana's a bit easy to spot.
Yeah, mangoes are pretty easy too, I reckon.
You still got to give it the squeeze though, and then they are more susceptible to bruising because sometimes you'll be eating that mango, and I love my mangoes. We're just coming into mango season now. The Calypso mango is the only real mango, and you'll open up a Calypso and it's just the right level of firmness, and you'll get to some spot that's just a bit mushy. You go, someone squeeze that.
Yeah.
Did you do that? Did someone in the household do that? Or was that at the supermarket? So if you could get mangoes as well.
Was it just placed in the bag a little bit too roughly?
Well, it could have been. It could have had something sitting on top. Did someone put the ice cream on top of the mangoes?
Well, whatever means less wasted fruit, it's got to be better. Yeah. And avocados are just... There's so many that must be going into compost and landfill and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So millions, apparently. I don't have an accurate number for you, but if I said...
No, that would do. And how many swimming pools full?
Yeah, that's right. If I said 3.4 million, that would sound better than millions. But a lot is the only answer I know at the moment. But the other part is that they're using the same technology for growers, producers, distributors. So then when they look at the avocados, they can say, oh, this one is 5 days away from being ripe, we'll send that to that place that is 5 days away. Or this one's going to be ripe in a day, right, we'll send that one to somewhere closer. So when it gets to the supermarket, your local supermarket, it's more likely to be in that ripe window as well.
Creepers, we're a clever species.
Well, getting there. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. But just working on that.
Potential.
Yeah.
Your digital wallet is about to get a bit fatter now, and not necessarily with cash, I'm sorry to say. Most forms of identification now can be loaded onto your phone to streamline your day. You can load up credit cards and reward cards, memberships and Medicare, all available with a swipe and a tap. But until now, passports have remained a sticking point. The passport in booklet form and the loads of paperwork that go along with inching through customs have been the unchangeable way things are done in international travel. But Matthew, digital passports may get people flowing through customs much more fluidly now.
They might, and I think there's a whole range of good reasons for going this way. It's funny when you go through some borders now, you hand over the passport and you used to like getting the stamp in there. Or
that's right.
The big
it was
machine,
like,
clunk,
something to show off to friends.
Yeah, that's right. I have a passport, look at all these stamps I've got in there. And there are some now that you go through and they don't stamp it. And I know my kids have been through going, could you stamp it, please? Could you put something on there?
My passport's got pages in it, but they're all blank. There's nothing on them.
That's right. So it's changing. Obviously, they're using more electronic processing of it, but we've still got that physical passport on it. It's something that you're travelling, you carry it with you all the time. You don't want to leave it back in your...
Something to lose.
Well, it's something to lose. And I was staying at an Airbnb one time in France, it was, and we walked up the stairs and there were actually some Aussies there, and they said, just to let you know, make sure you keep your valuables tight because we just got broken into and their passport got stolen and they were meant to fly home the next day. So that was a major drama for them, going to the embassy, trying to get a passport, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure they didn't fly home the next day. So it's a problem. So it makes sense to get it on your phone. Now, people look at that and say, well, if you lose your phone, well, I'm pretty confident that if someone steals my phone or I lose it, I'm not happy about it because I've got to go and buy a new phone, but I can buy a new phone. I can download my complete phone that's backed up in the cloud, and half an hour later, I've got my passport again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Whereas if my real passport gets stolen, that's a major drama. So this all sounds good to me. What I do like, which probably is good for Apple, I do like the idea of using something that's already on the phone. So, for example, in New South Wales in Australia, we've got our digital driver's license, but you've got to use the Service New South Wales app. So different components of your phone need different apps to be able to show your ID. It just makes more sense to put them all in some common framework. Don't reinvent the wheel, if you like. Say, well, that New South Wales driver's license, put it in your Apple Wallet. That passport, put it in your Apple Wallet. So put them all in that, and obviously from an Android point of view, do the same thing as well, so that you're essentially getting all of those components in one common tool. That just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And I saw someone, actually was at the Melbourne Cup, I ran into a friend there and he pulled out his wallet and I said, wow, how old-fashioned is that? What have you got a wallet for? And he opened it up and he had a couple of credit cards in there and a bit of cash. That was it. And I went, well, it's almost, what do you have it for now? Your driver's license you don't need, your credit card you don't need, maybe a bit of cash, but who carries cash? So you used to have a full wallet of a bunch of stuff.
That's right.
Now you just don't.
Well, I still have a wallet, but I just don't ever refer to it.
That's right, you just carry it there for old time's sake.
Well, a new credit card comes in the mail. You've got to put it somewhere.
That's right.
And so
Put a wallet
it
that
gets
sits on your
stashed in the
shelf.
wallet. And yeah, that's it.
Look at this, kids. Back in the day, this is what we used to have. So that's all fantastic. The only minor issue at the moment is at the moment you can only use this particular passport in the Apple Wallet in the US, which tends to defeat the purpose of travelling overseas. So
So
the
you
US,
find getting out of the US, but when you arrive in Australia, they're like, oh, sorry, we're going to need to
what do you got there, buddy? I don't need a physical passport.
I need paper.
So at the moment they're using it within the US for domestic travel, which you probably don't need
Do
your
you need
passport for.
for?
No,
Yeah.
that's right. But some people would say for some states you might need a passport to come in. But they're using it for ID
Okay.
and testing out the concept because you've got countries, the UK is one, Australia is another, that are looking at what they might do as well to be able to have some form of digital passport. So let's trial it domestically, fine. It seems to work, everything seems to be okay. And then depending where you're flying to, you might be able to say, oh, okay, let's start using it. So Canada might come on board, for example, or Australia or the UK. So, okay, I'm going to the UK for a week. I don't need my passport. I've got my Apple Wallet with my passport in there.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's probably more secure. If it's set up right, it's got to be more secure than a physical passport.
For sure, yeah.
It's got to be harder to forge a passport these days. If you watch movies, Catch Me If You Can type movies from days of yore, they cut out a little photo and stick it in someone else's passport, and that's it, I've got a fake passport, but I'm sure it's a bit harder than that now. But a digital wallet seems like it makes sense to me. So, look, I love the idea. I love the idea of having it all in one, but I wish there'd be another industry that could get on board, and that's checking into hotels. It still seems to be the most painful process in the world. Every hotel I check into, you walk up there and they hand every bit of paper and say, fill in your details. You know my details. I've checked in. I've got all the information there. If you really want me to sign something, print out something with all my details, but I've still got to fill in my name and my various details. And why? So it just do it a bit better. And that's what they're talking about with this. They're saying once you've got some sort of digital ID or digital passport in your wallet, then hotels, you're able to just self-check. You walk up, you self-check in, you'll have keyless entry in your doors, and away you go. So that's going to be worth it for me alone.
Yep,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So,
We're living in 2025. We're headed towards 2026. It's about time.
Right, you tell them, James.
It's a favourite topic here at Tech Talk, bringing Rosie the robot to life to take the pressure of the chores on the domestic front. Well, we'll put this first story into the files of almost, but not quite. Humanoid helpers are robotic, sure enough, but they're not autonomous. They'll fold and pack your laundry, they might even tidy the kitchen, but only if the human with the headset and controller is in a good mood. Matt, here's hope on the horizon, but it's still on the horizon, isn't it? Is there likely to be much of a market for this?
No, it's terrible. You know how keen I am to have a robot walking around our house.
Yeah.
You know how I'm going to be so excited the day you turn up and I say, James, I'll just get Rosie to get you a lovely glass of water for our podcast recording.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. And I saw this story and I went, you know what? not too expensive. You can buy it for $30,000, or you can pay $700 a month. I know $30,000 sounds a bit steep, but early adopter, but $700 a month. Yeah. I'd give it a go for a month, see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I kept reading it. It's a humanoid, 1.68 metres tall. That's good. You don't want to be taller than the humans and make them feel a bit inferior.
You've got to have some domination.
Only weighs 30 kilos. It's got synthetic tendons rather than gears, so it won't overpower you necessarily. Finger strength, about the same as a human, so it's not going to grab you by the throat and choke you.
So we haven't built Terminators yet.
No,
right,
and hopefully there's not a switch on the back that says Terminator mode, normal mode. It's 25 kilos is its limit to how much it can weigh, which is kind of about the sort of normal weight that humans would typically lift without struggling a bit.
Yeah, good on.
And its hands, I thought, which was pretty important, are IP68 rating, so they can do the dishes. That was the important part there. So
got to get wet hands.
That's right, they've got to be able to get wet.
Yeah, good.
So everything stacked up. When I was reading, I was pretty excited about it. It can do domestic chores. And I saw a video of stacking a dishwasher, folding laundry. I was excited about that, just cleaning the kitchen, general things. But then my excitement took a huge nosedive when I saw that it wasn't autonomous, as you mentioned. It has someone back in the office wearing a VR headset. Not sure why they need a VR headset, but someone else controlling this robot.
Yeah.
So now I've just invited a spy, someone from the outside world,
Someone that you've
into
never
my
seen
home.
before, don't know who they are.
That's right. Now, they talked about they've got this really good vetting process and they monitor people. I'm going, yeah, but still, I've left the washing and the laundry and I might do a little naked run through the house to grab the undies, and I just don't
For
love the idea.
$700 a month.
That's right.
Can you send me a cleaner?
That's right. If someone's going to see me naked running through the house, it might as well be a human in my house.
I wonder what the advantage of this is. I mean, you need a person. You need to occupy someone to do this, to operate this. So what they're just able to operate or deal with multiple humanoids from their office, maybe.
Well, I wondered about that as well, because I thought, okay, well, I'm not using my robot every second of the day, but what about if I want to make my breakfast at breakfast time and the other 50, 20, 10, how many people that one person's
They all want to have
controlling?
breakfast at the same time.
That's right. Sorry, you're in the line. You'll be number 7 in the line.
And someone's got laundry to do as well. So
that's right.
Oh,
yeah, give it half an hour. So I think the idea here is just to help train the robot in normal operation to learn autonomous operation.
Practice.
And if they want to do that, I'm happy for them to do that in their simulated kitchen or simulated house.
Yes.
Not in my house with someone looking in at everything I do.
Yeah.
I'm not a real privacy zealot, but I just thought that one was going a bit too far in terms of inviting someone.
So we're calling this one a scam as well? No, sorry. Back up.
Well,
Back
but what happens if someone's sitting at the other end? I say, oh, here's my password to my wife, for example, or here's my code I just got for two-factor authentication, and the person at the other end, oh, we've vetted those people, but gee, one must have got through the cracks. Oh, whoops, that was my life you just impacted. So I'm still waiting, basically, is the bottom line from all that.
Yes, Rosie the robot, not here yet. Almost, but not quite. Just like the throaty gurgle of a well-tuned V8, some people need certain symbols to complete their driving experience. Symbols like a set of car keys. But we are in the second quarter of the 21st century, Matt. Surely car keys, even a fob on a key ring for that matter, surely they're redundant by now.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? And the thing that struck me, the reason I actually came up with this story is because Ford, and I'm not having a go here at Ford directly, but it's just a sign of interesting technology mixes, Ford has released a new product that you can buy as an accessory. So some people like to show their particular car brand off with a hat or with maybe some gloves or just some various things they might wear. Ford have released a new belt buckle, which I found interesting.
Right.
And it's a fairly expensive belt buckle. It's about $480 Australian for a belt buckle.
Yeah,
but
that's a fashion statement.
it is, but it's better than that. You've got a fob specifically for the F-150, the Ford F-150, and the fob clips into your belt buckle.
There you go.
So put your keys in your pocket. No, don't worry about carrying them in my pocket. Leave your keys on the table. Oh, no, I leave them behind. I always lose my keys. Clip them into your belt buckle. You know where your keys are all the time.
Yeah, right.
So, and I thought the same as you. I went, a key fob? Why? Why are we still doing this in 2025? So if we go back a little bit, and I can remember the first vehicle I owned was a V8 Holden Ute, a HZ Ute, a 253 V8, And that was the days where to lock the door, you press the button down on the inside of the door,
Yeah.
you got out of the car, and you had to hold the handle up to close the door.
And
If you
then
didn't,
realise that you left your keys in the ignition.
you still would do that, that's right. But if you close the door without holding the handle up, of course, the button would pop up.
Pop up
And that
again,
was not the case originally. It was about the 60s where manufacturers went, new feature, hold the handle up to save you locking your keys in the car.
Yeah.
So if you just close the door normally, bang, the button would pop up, and that would save everyone from locking the keys in the car. But, of course, it became so habitual, hold the key up, hold the handle up, close it, and I remember doing that once. And as I closed it, I saw the keys sitting on the seat. And they fell out of my pocket. No. So, and then, of course, the solution back in those days was blue packing tape. You would always find someone with a blue packing tape to slide down the outside of the window, jiggle around for a little while, not really knowing what you're doing, and it'll pop up. You go, wow, that's high security. So we went past that, and we got to the stage where central locking, how exciting was that?
Yeah.
That was the early 90s that most cars started coming out with central locking, pressing a button and locked it. In fact, and there's lots of industries that have fallen by the wayside, but I remember there was one particular, or a number of them at the time, there's one I remember in particular, brand of stores that focused on central locking installation for your older vehicles. So their whole business model was around that, and they also did car stereos because your car didn't have a stereo. It might have had a radio, but didn't have something you could put a cassette tape in. So that was their whole business, was basically car stereos and central locking. And gee, you wouldn't sell many of either of those right now.
Yeah, I think it'd be out of business.
That's right, you would be. So central locking was pretty cool. And then it was probably the late 90s, early 2000s where you got to the stage where you had the proximity key. So you basically left the key in your pocket, and as you walked up, you grabbed the handle, and it knew that the key was nearby. It would unlock, walk away, press the button on the handle, and away you'd go. So you think that's pretty cool. That's 25 or so years ago that we had that.
Yep.
And then I remember the first Tesla I got was 2017, and a key, what do you need a key for?
Yeah.
It's just an app on your phone. I went, oh, that's the go now. So how cool is that? And that's where some car manufacturers started bringing out their own apps like Tesla did. And so you can unlock the car from your app. You didn't have to be near the car because it was connected to the outside world. You could start the car. I'd actually let a friend pick up my car and drive it from somewhere that I was nowhere near him because I could unlock and start the car remotely for him to get in the car and drive it away. Fantastic. You could share access with your key, all these wonderful things from an app. And I went, this is the go now. Yeah. Those keys are so yesterday. And then Apple jumped on board in 2020 and they made a big announcement at one of their, I think it was their developer conference, not their normal September conference launch, their developer conference launch, where they announced they've done a collaboration with BMW as the first car company, and they've got the, get ready for it, car key. Is that the best they can come up with? This is Apple we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So they've got the concept they announced back 5 years ago where you could use your Apple Wallet for a car key. But surely it had to be called iKey or iCar key. But no, it was called car key. And so BMW, you bought one of those BMWs, you didn't need keys, you used the Apple Wallet. But that was 5 years ago. And we've seen a few companies jump on board with the car key concept from Apple. But you've got Kia, you've got Hyundai, Porsche is going to doing it soon as well, but not a lot yet, and that was 5 years ago.
Because people still need to have something they can hold in their hands that indicates that they are about to jump in a car and drive.
I think there's a part of it is that, a part of it is you're almost a bit of a status. I own a car, or look at how flash my car is.
Yeah.
You sit the keys down in the restaurant you walk into, or you own a ABC, whatever the brand might be. So there's a bit of that, I think, as well. Some people will go, oh no, what about if my phone battery goes flat? But that's much less likely than losing your car keys. And you don't lose your phone very often, but it's much easier to find your phone if you do lose your phone. So the big issue at the moment, I think, is that you've got a couple of competing technologies. So you've got the manufacturers themselves, like Tesla, who have their own app, very sophisticated app, does a great job. Buy our car and you get this app and use the app. Yeah. So that's one sort of line of thinking. Then you've got some manufacturers who say, well, why are we going to reinvent the wheel? Apple have got their car key. Provided you've got an Apple phone, then you can have our car and our car key, the convenience of all of that. But then what about if I've got a Samsung phone? Yeah, we don't cater for you, sorry. So then you're excluding a bunch of people. Yeah. So that's tough.
It becomes a little bit complicated.
It does. And then you've got the best part is the Car Connectivity Consortium. Can you believe it? There is a consortium that's been created around the car connectivity, and they're trying to introduce universal standards so you can have a universal process to get in and out of your car with your smartphone. So if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't got a car that does it yet, there'll be a time in the very near future that you will do it. It's progressing, but just probably not as quick as I thought it would have.
Well, I had a similar thing happen to me just this morning, actually. So our car last night had an update. Our EV had an update, and my phone hadn't taken on the update yet. So I was able to drive the car, and had done the update, must have been during the time that I was driving when I went to get back in the car, because when I went to get back in the car, it wouldn't recognise my phone at all. There was nothing I could do to get it to recognise my phone. So I've gone, I'm in a conundrum. Then I thought, oh, wait, I'll just call my wife. And, from 15 kilometres away, she was able to let me into the car, and,
there you go.
And off I went. Yeah,
fascinating. So for people who talk about some of the problems, and some people do like to talk about all the issues created,
and there are issues created
solves,
with everything. Yep.
That's right, but technology solves those issues as well. Being able to unlock it from remotely, it's fascinating. That's a good story.
The power-to-weight ratio of an EV is nothing short of fantastic, hitting 0 to 100 in the space of a joyful gasp. And that's not even in the high-performance models. So, heads are turning in the heady world of motorsport, where Formula One holds the benchmark for the fastest circuit racing in the land, because Formula E is closing the gap and may just become the sport of choice for the true adrenaline junkies. Now, Matt, Formula E acceleration has it all over F1, but the top speeds are just about there now.
They're getting there. There's a new Gen 4 machines that have come out in Formula E. And I must admit, when I saw Formula E launched in 2014, I thought, that's pretty good. I like the idea of that. And some of the purists poo-pooed it because they said, look, there's no noise except there's a bit of a whir, or there's a bit of a wind noise as the car goes past at incredible speeds.
You got to hear that squealing.
Yeah, you want to hear that squealing. But it's quite fascinating because the first time I started watching Formula E, it was a bit like watching Mario Kart or using Mario Kart because
with the sound down.
Well, with the sound down, but they had spots on the track that you'd run over to gain a temporary boost, and it was a very tactical process. So let's say it was a 10-lap race. That boost would give you a boost for maybe a lap and a half. So do I use that at the beginning of the race and try and get away from some of my competitors, or do I save it to try and do an overtake, or do I save it to try and stop myself being overtaken? So it was very tactical, and there was no right answer, which is obviously the best way to race, but it was quite fascinating. But sometimes
you could get a temporary boost.
You got a temporary boost, and sometimes people would go for the temporary boost where they'd run over a certain spot, but it wouldn't actually get quite on the right spot. So they'd lose a bit of time going just slightly out of the way around a corner, and then not run over the right spot. So they have to do it again the next lap. So
I've got another question. Are you allowed to throw bananas on the track?
Yeah, that's the obvious thing, isn't it? Some oil cans or bananas throw out the back. Just
but
like
I love the idea of a temporary boost.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Formula E, and it's a bit gimmicky, but why not? You've got that capability there. And Formula E, batteries weren't as good in 2014. The electric engines weren't as good in 2014, or electric motors weren't as good in 2014. But they've slowly been improving and getting better all the time. And I've watched a bit of it here and there, and they seem to have gotten a following, but nowhere near F1 following at the moment is crazy. There are hundreds of thousands of people that go and watch Formula One each weekend that Formula One's on.
Was it a couple of decades ago? It was really sort of lagging a bit with its popularity, people following it, and now it is back as one of the key sports for generating revenue. Yeah,
crazy. Who are the biggest sporting names on the planet? And often you would look to Formula One because it is international. They do go across the whole globe throughout the season.
Yeah, people like Verstappen have become like household names. Yeah.
They're exactly right. So, how is Formula E going versus Formula One? And we're at the point now, which again, I'm sure some purists would hate this idea, but Formula E on a single lap, on a qualifying lap, for example, would actually outperform a Formula One car on many tracks that they go around the circuit. Some Formula One would still win. And the difference here is the acceleration 0 to 100 is faster in a Formula E car than Formula One. So that's quite incredible.
Well, it's impressive because Formula One was proud of its acceleration.
Exactly right, yep. Now, then you get the cornering capabilities. The Formula E cars are a little bit heavier, so they probably sit on the track a bit nicer. They've got the same aerodynamics as a Formula One car, so they're quite good from a cornering perspective. But, of course, they can get out of the corners quicker because they've got the acceleration, and they've got four-wheel drive. So you've got the ability to accelerate using all four wheels, better acceleration, better pulling you out of the corner as well as pushing you out of a corner. At this stage, their top speed is not quite the same as the top speed of Formula One.
So what are we looking at here? What's the difference there?
Well, you can probably get up to maybe 360, 370 in a Formula One car. Formula E maybe 350. And again,
so it's not that far
It's not that far off. But on tracks that are There are some
That
tracks.
have got a long straight
Correct,
that could
yeah.
count for a lot.
That's
but
right.
it's still the accelerations. You've got those hairpin turns and you've got, it's so many corners there. And that's part of the skill of Formula One driving is
Absolutely.
not flipping out in those corners.
So I would love to see them compete against each other. Now, it's probably not going to happen in the near future because the length of a race. So a Formula One race is often, it could be up to 2 hours, an hour and a half, that time of length. They don't do those length of races in Formula E just because of the battery capacity. So they've typically got about a 55 kilowatt hour battery in the Formula E cars. Now, for us driving our cars around the street, 55 kilowatt hours is fine. But when you're doing 350 kilometres an hour, the air resistance is going to make it so that you're going to chew through that battery fairly quickly. So the races in Formula E are quite short. And the power available, so the new Gen 4 cars have got 600 kilowatts available as the power, and that's in qualifying bursts, or that's in when they have it in burst mode. So when they're doing a qualifying lap, 600 kilowatts. The normal racing, they've got 450 kilowatts to extend the life of their battery, obviously, to give them a bit of extra length on their battery, and then just use the 600 kilowatts occasionally. So if you did a qualifying lap, Formula 1 versus Formula E, on many tracks, Formula E would win. If you had maybe a 5-lap, 10-lap race, Formula E would win. You start going much longer than that, then you've got to refuel the Formula E car, which is a little bit slower because you've got to change battery.
Well, I wonder if this is going to accelerate, and pardon the pun there, but accelerate the development of the drop-in, drop-out batteries.
Possibly a whole range of things might happen. They're getting the
2.5 seconds in a pit stop to drop in a battery.
That's right. They're getting, and back in the old days of Formula One, they used to refuel. That used to be a thing.
Yeah.
But they found there were some incidents that occurred where someone would refuel.
Yeah, was that Nicky Lauda's?
No, he had an accident
that was
with
an
fuel.
accident.
But in the pits themselves, when they're refueling it, you might get a little bit of splash of fuel that comes out. Of course, you've got hot engines, and anyway, they had fires, they had people injured. So you fuel up at the beginning of a race, and that's it. You can't refuel throughout the whole race. But that used to be a part of the pit stop, was the refueling. Maybe with Formula E, part of the pit stop could be while you're changing tyres, the battery drops out and drops back in from underneath. I'm not sure. That's a thing they could work on. But over a short race, I think that'll be fascinating to see just how well you go. Going for, say, a 10-lap race, having Formula 1 and Formula E cars on the grid together, that would be fascinating. And just the strength, that acceleration versus the top speed. So they might get overtaken down the main straight of Formula E car, but then around a few of the tight corners, they get back in front of the Formula 1 car. And it'd be a great to and fro, I think.
I think this race is going to be decided by the spectators. And that, if Formula E can prove that it is as or more exciting than at Formula 1, Formula 1 is going to become a thing of the past.
Well, if they get, I think, my personal opinion is more overtaking. So that's one of the things they've tried to do with Formula 1 regulations, more overtaking. And MotoGP is probably more exciting than Formula 1 because you do have overtaking and you have a whole range of lead changes.
The arm wrestle for the lead when you've got those guys tussling for the lead there, and it's getting exciting because they're using those corners.
So they're still working on battery energy density. They think they've got about another 15 to 20% that can be gained in energy density in those batteries in the near future. So that'll help that argument. It's still not going to match fuel. Like, fuel has got good energy density. So you can't compete with that easily. The reason we talk about planes and what else we might do with planes, maybe sustainable aviation fuel, is because of that energy density. But I'm pretty excited about it. I think the noise is a thing. People love Formula 1 for the noise, and you can't go within QE of a Formula 1 track without having your earplugs in. It's just deafening.
But I wonder how loyal they'll be to the noise if the other stuff gets more exciting.
Well, I think the way you'd prove it is to put Formula 1 and Formula E in a race together. And maybe Formula 1 doesn't want to do that. So they want to stay away from that. But that's exciting that Formula E is getting that good. And the other thing that's fantastic is that an electric powertrain at the moment with their Formula E cars is getting up to 96% of the electric energy turning into forward motion. Whereas in internal combustion engines, around 25 to maybe 50%. And part of that reason is the noise. It's converting that energy, energy that's in the petrol, it's converting that into noise, it's converting that into heat as well as forward motion. But in the electric motor, it's converting so much into motion. So anyway, that's pretty exciting.
Now, imagine this. You're the first on the scene in a medical emergency, one where the patient's heart has stopped. Now, an ambulance may be on its way, but it's got to deal with all the traffic and whatnot, and what are you going to do? So defibrillators, they're pretty common around the place these days, but they're not everywhere. Now, Matt, we may be entering a time, though, where just like Superman, one may just drop in from you out of the sky to save the day.
It is a bit of a combination of technologies, but I want to talk first of all about the old Packer whackers. Do you remember those?
No.
Kerry Packer in 1990, Australia's richest man at the time, was playing polo, as you do when you're Australia's richest man, and he had a heart attack. Now, luckily, there was an ambulance there and it had a defib in the ambulance. So here's 1990, Kerry Packer lay there, family, oh my gosh, what's happening here with our Kerry? And the ambulance comes over, puts the Packer whacker on, or puts the defib on, and gives him a whack and comes back. And he was so grateful, he rang the Premier of the state and said, I've heard that not every ambulance has one of these defibrillators.
Ah.
The one I had, or the one that was near me, there was actually one where he was actually playing polo at, had a defib. So I'm probably only here today because of that. So how about I donate enough money for you to put one in every ambulance?
Yeah.
He didn't quite do that. He actually matched. The Premier said, well, maybe the Premier was embarrassed that one individual was going to fit out the whole ambulance lot. And so he said, I'll go your half. So Kerry Packer donated $2.5 million. New South Wales government donated put $2.5 million in, and they put a defib in every ambulance, and they were affectionately known as the Packer whackers because they were used on, or the same concept was used on Kerry Packer's heart to give him a bit of a whack. And then if you jump forward 30 years from that, in 2020, Greg Page, who's the yellow wiggle, he was on stage and pretty active. The Wiggles are pretty active, jumping and dancing around. And he had a cardiac arrest. And I remember I actually spoke to him about this, and he said, I thought I was pretty fit and healthy, but you can have other signs that are just lurking there, and had a cardiac arrest. But that was luckily around the time that AED started appearing in various clubs and public spaces. And so where he was, there was one on the wall. Someone's grabbed it off the wall, stuck it on his chest, followed the verbal instructions, bang, come back to life. And he's now founded Heart of the Nation, where he tries to raise funds to roll out lots more AEDs around the place. So that's all great. If you have a cardiac arrest and there's one nearby, which is a reasonable chance there might be one nearby, that's fantastic. If not, an ambulance, or the ambulances certainly in our state now have Packer whackers, have defibs in them. But the average response times, which I think is pretty impressive, is about 8 minutes in a major city for an ambulance to get to you. That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
but that's still 8 minutes without having a heartbeat.
Correct. And this is the thing. They say that if you have a cardiac arrest and you get a defib on you within 1 minute, you've got a 90% chance of survival. So what a wonderful piece of technology. Invented in 1968, the portable defib. So pretty cool technology. But every minute after that, your chance of surviving goes down by 10%.
Right.
So 8 minutes to get to you. Again, I'm impressed that they can get a call through, get an address, get on in your car and off you go and get to that place within 8 minutes. Wow. But if you can get there quicker, obviously it makes a big difference. But if it's not 8 minutes because it's really busy traffic trying to get around that, it's 10 or 12 or 13. Yeah, that's starting to say your chances are getting pretty slim, I reckon, by the time you're getting out of that 10 or 12 minutes. So in North Carolina, they're trialling a concept where you ring 911. This is in America, of course, ring 911, 000 in Australia. You'll get an ambulance being dispatched straight away. So on average, major city, 8 minutes on its way. But at the same time, they're dispatching a drone, and the drone's got an AED hanging out of its belly.
And the drone's not worried about traffic.
It's going straight to you.
Yeah, wow.
It goes along about 60 metres above the ground, straight to where you get to, and then when it gets there, it's got a little winch on it, and it drops down. It drops down to about 30 metres off the ground and then drops down the AED. So it might get there on average, they're saying, about 3 to 5 minutes faster than the ambulance.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So, and then again, you know you've done the training for AED, so you know what happens then once you've got it.
Yeah.
The verbal instructions.
You open it up and it starts talking.
Away it goes. So nothing changes there.
Yeah.
You might still have the 911 operator on the phone with you, so they might talk you through some of those things, but you don't really need that once you've got the AED there. So that's pretty cool.
How
and then it's just a matter.
That? And what an amazing piece of initiative.
Well, it is, but it's also, I love the fact that we're combining technology. So we've got drones, and you can use them to look over your neighbour's next door neighbour's yard and see what's going on there, or whatever useful things you might do with your drone.
Yeah.
But we've got that. We've got AEDs. So put those two together.
Yeah.
And so setting up an ambulance station can't be an inexpensive thing to do. Having an ambulance decked out ready to go is a fairly expensive process. Having people sitting around ready to go is an expensive process. But having drone stations, let's call them that, AED drone stations. We know we've got AEDs at various locations, but imagine having AED drone stations at various locations, so you could cut that time down without a lot of expense. I can imagine that drone could just sit there. It'd probably be able to have solar panels on it. We've talked about that in wartime, but have solar panels on there to keep the battery charged up of the drone and the AED, because that's an issue too. You don't want to grab your AED and go, oh, whoops, there's no battery in it. So, so having all that sitting there just at various locations around cities and country locations, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
so
what a step forward.
It is. I think it's actually a really clever use of technology. So there we have it, James. That was a few stories from earlier on the year.
Some cracking ones as well.
I did try and pick out the best, but when I say that, every week we've got 9 best stories. So that's a bit of a snapshot there, and it is. I just find it fascinating how much things change in a year. Yeah,
it's amazing. And, well, I wonder if we were to compare this time next year, just what they would sound like as well.
Maybe I should go back and do a best-of from season 1. That'd be quite fascinating.
Well.
Anyway, so hopefully listeners enjoyed that. And, of course, next week we'll be back again for another Tech Talk episode.
So tune in, folks.